Maya Chin walked through the hallways of Lincoln High School wearing her father's old military surplus jacket, combat boots that were slightly too big for her feet, and cargo pants that had seen better days. The other students whispered and pointed as she passed by, their expensive designer clothes and perfect hair making her feel like she didn't belong. "Look at G.I. Jane over there," sneered Jessica Martinez, the most popular girl in school. Her group of friends giggled as Maya hurried past, clutching her worn backpack tighter. Did she raid an army surplus store or something? Maya kept her head down and continued walking. She had heard worse comments over the past 3 months since her family moved to this wealthy suburban town. Her father, Sergeant Major David Chun, had been deployed overseas for 2 years, and her mother worked double shifts at the local diner just to make ends meet. The military surplus gear wasn't a fashion choice. It was all they could afford. In her previous school on the military base, everyone understood. Kids wore hand-me-downs from their deployed parents, and nobody judged anyone for having less money. Here in Millbrook Heights, where most parents drove luxury cars and bought their kids new clothes every season, Maya stuck out like a sore thumb. "Hey, Army girl," called out Brad Thompson, the quarterback of the football team. "When's the war starting?" His friends burst into laughter, and Maya felt her face burn with embarrassment. She ducked into the nearest bathroom and locked herself in a stall, fighting back tears. Through the thin walls, she could hear other girls talking about their weekend shopping trips and expensive vacations. Maya pulled out her phone and looked at the last text from her father, sent from somewhere in the Middle East. "Stay strong, kiddo. I'm proud of you every day." That afternoon in chemistry class, Maya sat alone at her lab table while other students paired up with their friends. Mr. Rodriguez, the teacher, tried to include her in group activities, but the other students made it clear they weren't interested in working with a weird military kid. "Maya, would you like to demonstrate the next experiment?" Mr. Rodriguez asked kindly. Before Maya could answer, Jessica raised her hand. "Mr. Rodriguez, shouldn't someone with better equipment handle the demonstration? Maya might blow something up with all her army training." The class erupted in laughter. Maya felt her cheeks burn, but she stood up anyway. "I'll do it, Mr. Rodriguez." As she carefully mixed the chemicals, her hands were steady despite the snickers behind her. Living on military bases her whole life had taught her discipline and focus. She completed the experiment perfectly, creating a beautiful color-changing reaction that impressed even Mr. Rodriguez. "Excellent work, Maya," he said, but the praise felt hollow when she saw the eye rolls from her classmates. During lunch, Maya sat alone in the corner of the cafeteria, eating a peanut butter sandwich her mother had packed. She watched the other students with their catered lunches and designer water bottles, laughing and planning parties she would never be invited to. "Is this seat taken?" asked a quiet voice. Maya looked up to see Emma Walsh, a shy girl from her English class. Emma wasn't part of the popular crowd either, but she was generally left alone because her family had money. "No, you can sit," Maya replied, surprised anyone wanted to join her. Emma sat down with her elaborate lunch spread. "I think what you did in chemistry class was really cool. I could never stay that calm with everyone staring at me." "Thanks," Maya said softly. "I'm used to it, I guess." "It's not right, you know," Emma continued. "The way they treat you. My dad was in the Navy, and he always says military families make the biggest sacrifices." Maya felt a spark of hope. Maybe she wasn't completely alone in this school after all. But their conversation was cut short when Jessica and her group walked by their table. "Oh, look, Emma found herself a charity case," Jessica said loudly. "How sweet." Emma's face turned red, and Maya could see her struggling between defending Maya and protecting her own social standing. After a long moment, Emma looked down at her food and stayed quiet. Maya understood. She couldn't blame Emma for not wanting to become a target too. She finished her sandwich quickly and left the cafeteria, spending the rest of lunch period in the library where it was quiet and no one could bother her. After school, Maya walked home through the affluent neighborhoods surrounding Lincoln High. She passed houses with perfectly manicured lawns, swimming pools, and luxury cars in every driveway. Her own apartment was a 20-minute walk away in the older part town where the rent was cheaper and the buildings showed their age. As she walked, she noticed a black sedan following slowly behind her. When she turned to look, the car's windows were tinted too dark to see inside. Maya quickened her pace, her father's training kicking in. Always be aware of your surroundings, he had taught her. Trust your instincts. The car continued following her for several blocks before finally turning down a side street. Maya made a mental note to tell her mother about it when she got home. At home, Maya found her mother, Linda, getting ready for her evening shift at the diner. Linda worked from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. at one job, then 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at another, try to keep up with rent and expenses while David was deployed. "How was school today, sweetheart?" Linda asked, adjusting her uniform in the mirror. "Fine," Maya lied, not wanting to add to her mother's stress. "Just the usual." Linda paused and looked at her daughter carefully. "Maya, I know this move has been hard on you. I know the kids at school don't understand our situation." "Mom, it's okay." "Really?" "No, it's not okay," Linda said firmly. "But I want you to remember something. Your father is overseas right now, protecting people who don't even know his name. You come from a family of heroes, Maya. Don't let anyone make you forget that." After her mother left for work, Maya sat at the kitchen table doing homework. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the old refrigerator and the sound of traffic outside. She looked at the photos on the wall, her father in his dress uniform, family pictures from various military bases where they had lived, awards her father had received for his service. She picked up one photo from when she was younger, standing between her parents at a military ceremony. Her father was receiving a commendation for bravery, and Maya remembered feeling so proud of him that day. The kids at school had no idea what real courage looked like. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop pretending to be something you're not. You don't belong here." Maya stared at the message, feeling a chill run down her spine. Someone at school had gotten her phone number and was now harassing her even at home. She took a screenshot of the message and set her phone aside, but sleep didn't come easily that night. The next morning brought more of the same treatment at school. Students whispered as she passed, some making military jokes, others just staring like she was some kind of exhibit. In gym class, when teams were being chosen for volleyball, Maya was picked last, and her teammates made it clear they weren't happy about it. "Try not to tackle anyone, soldier girl," one of them muttered. During the game, Maya played quietly, not wanting to draw more attention to herself. But when a difficult ball came her way, her athletic training kicked in. She dove to save it, making an incredible play that would have impressed any coach. Instead of praise, she got annoyed looks from her teammates. "Show off," someone whispered. In the locker room afterward, Maya overheard a group of girls planning a party for that weekend. They were talking about decorations, food, and who was invited. When they noticed Maya listening, their conversation stopped abruptly. "Some people are so desperate for friends," one of them said loud enough for Maya to hear. Maya quickly changed back in her regular clothes and left the locker room. She was getting tired of pretending their words didn't hurt. Every day felt like a battle, and she was fighting it alone. But what Maya didn't know was that someone had been watching her very carefully. Someone who recognized the discipline in the way she carried herself, the tactical awareness in how she moved through the school, and the quiet strength she showed in the face of constant harassment. That afternoon, as Maya walked home through the same route, she noticed the black sedan again. This time, it pulled up alongside her at a red light. The passenger window rolled down slightly, and Maya caught a glimpse of someone in dark clothing watching her. Her heart raced, and she quickly turned down a different street, taking a longer route home. The car didn't follow this time, but Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. Her instincts, sharpened by growing up in a military family, were telling her that the quiet period was about to end. As she reached her apartment building, Maya looked back over her shoulder one more time. The street was empty, but she had the distinct feeling that tomorrow would be different. She just didn't know how different it would be or how everything she thought she knew about her situation was about to be turned completely upside down. That night, Maya went to bed thinking about her father's words. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones nobody sees you fighting. She had no idea that very soon, everyone would see exactly what she was made of. The next Friday morning started like any other day at Lincoln High School. Maya arrived early, as she always did, preferring the empty hallways to the crowded chaos that came later. She was at her locker organizing her books when Jessica Martinez and her group approached, looking more confident and cruel than usual. Well, look who's still playing dress up," Jessica said, gesturing at Maya's surplus jacket. "Don't you have any real clothes? Or is this some kind of weird phase?" Maya tried to ignore them and continued getting her books, but Jessica stepped closer, blocking her path to class. "I heard your dad is some kind of soldier," Jessica continued. "Is that why you dress like you're going to war?" Newsflash, this is high school, not Afghanistan. Something snapped inside Maya. She turned to face Jessica directly, her voice calm but firm. "My father is serving overseas, protecting people like you. Maybe show some respect." Jessica laughed loudly. "Respect? For what? Anyone can put on a uniform and pretend to be tough. It doesn't make you special." The hallway had started to fill with other students who sensed drama brewing. A crowd was gathering, phones already coming out to record whatever was about to happen. Maya felt trapped, surrounded by faces eager for entertainment at her expense. "You know what I think?" Jessica said, playing to her audience. "I think you and your family are just pretending to be heroes. Real military families don't end up in apartments across town. They live in nice houses like everyone else." Maya's hands clenched into fists, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her father had taught her that discipline was more powerful than anger. "You don't know anything about military families." "Oh, I know plenty," Jessica smirked. "I know that people who can't afford real clothes shouldn't be at school like this. Maybe you should transfer somewhere more suitable." The crowd around them had grown larger, and Maya could hear students whispering and laughing. Some were recording videos, probably planning to post them online later. She felt completely exposed and alone, surrounded by hostility. "What's going on here?" came a voice from behind the crowd. Mr. Rodriguez pushed through the students, taking in the scene. His expression was serious as he looked from Maya to Jessica and her group. "Just having a friendly conversation, Mr. Rodriguez," Jessica said sweetly. Maya was telling us about her interesting fashion choices. Mr. Rodriguez wasn't fooled. He had seen this kind of bullying before, and he recognized the hurt in Maya's eyes despite her attempt to look strong. "Everyone needs to get a class," he said firmly. "The bell is about to ring." The crowd dispersed reluctantly, disappointed that their entertainment was over. Jessica gave Maya one last smug look before walking away with her friends, already whispering about their next opportunity to humiliate her. "Maya, are you all right?" Mr. Rodriguez asked quietly. "I'm fine," Maya replied, though her voice was shaky. "Just heading to class." Mr. Rodriguez watched her walk away, making a mental note to keep an eye on the situation. He had taught at Lincoln High for 15 years, and he had seen how cruel wealthy students could be to anyone they perceived as different or inferior. The rest of the morning was torture for Maya. Word had spread about the hallway confrontation, and students kept staring and whispering wherever she went. In her first period class, someone had left a note on her desk that read, "Go back where you came from." During second period history, Mr. Patterson was discussing World War II when a student raised his hand. "Mr. Patterson, what's the difference between real soldiers and people who just pretend to be military?" he asked, looking directly at Maya. Maya felt her face burn with embarrassment, but Mr. Patterson handled it professionally. "That's not relevant to our lesson today, Marcus. Let's focus on the material." By lunchtime, Maya was exhausted from the constant harassment. She decided to skip the cafeteria entirely and eat her lunch outside in the courtyard. At least there, she might find some peace. But even outside, she couldn't escape the whispers and stares. A group of students at a nearby table kept looking over at her and laughing. Maya tried to focus on her sandwich, but her appetite was gone. "Hey, military girl," someone called out. Maya looked up to see Brad Thompson and several members of the football team walking toward her. Her heart sank. If the morning had been bad, this was about to get worse. "We heard you think you're tough because your dad's a soldier," Brad said, sitting down uninvited at her table. "But you're just a scared little girl playing dress-up." Maya stood up to leave, but Brad grabbed her arm. "Where are you going? We're just talking." "Let go of me," Maya said firmly, using the commanding voice her father had taught her. Brad laughed and tightened his grip. "Or what? You'll call your daddy to come save you?" "Oh wait, he's not here, is he?" Maya looked Brad straight in the eye, her training kicking in. She knew exactly how to break free from his grip and could probably put him on the ground in seconds. But she also knew that using those skills would only make everything worse. "I said let go," she repeated. "Make me," Brad challenged, enjoying the audience that had gathered around them. Maya was about to act when a new voice cut through the tension. "I suggest you remove your hand from the young lady." Everyone turned to see a man in a dark suit standing at the edge of the courtyard. He was tall, lean, and carried himself with an authority that made even Brad hesitate. The man's eyes were cold and calculating as he assessed the situation. "This is a private conversation," Brad said, trying to sound tough, but clearly nervous about the stranger's presence. "No," the man replied calmly. "This is assault. Remove your hand now, or I will remove it for you." Something in the man's tone made Brad immediately let go of Maya's arm. He tried to save face in front of his friends, but his voice cracked slightly as he spoke. "Whatever, man. We were just messing around." "I suggest you mess around elsewhere," the stranger said. Brad and his friends quickly gathered their things and left, mumbling excuses about having to get to class. The other students in the courtyard also began to disperse, sensing that the entertainment was over. Maya stood frozen, unsure of what to make of this unexpected intervention. The man approached her slowly, his movements precise and controlled. "Are you injured?" he asked. "No, I'm fine," Maya replied, studying his face. There was something familiar about him, though she was certain they had never met. "Maya Chun?" he asked. Maya's blood ran cold. How did this stranger know her name? All her father's warnings about security and staying alert came flooding back. "Who are you?" she asked, taking a step back. The man reached into his jacket slowly, keeping his movements visible and non-threatening. He pulled out a military ID card and showed it to her. "Colonel James Mitchell, United States Army Intelligence. I need to speak with you about your father." Maya's world tilted. Army Intelligence? Her father was just a regular infantry soldier, wasn't he? What could they possibly want with him? And why were they talking to her at school? "I don't understand," Maya said. "There are some things about your father's current assignment that we need to discuss," Colonel Mitchell said. "But not here. Too many listening ears." Maya looked around the courtyard, suddenly seeing the lingering students in a new light. Were some of them watching more carefully than others? Had her father's work put her in danger somehow? "Is he okay?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your father is fine," Colonel Mitchell assured her. "But there have been some developments that affect you and your mother. We need to relocate you immediately." "Relocate? I don't understand." "Why?" Colonel Mitchell glanced around the courtyard one more time before speaking. "Your father isn't just overseas, Maya. He's deep undercover in a highly classified operation. His cover has been compromised, and now you and your mother are potential targets." Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. Everything she thought she knew about her father's deployment was a lie. He wasn't just a regular soldier. He was involved in something dangerous enough that people might come after his family. "The people who have been watching you these past few days aren't random strangers," Colonel Mitchell continued. "They're hostile operatives trying to use you to get to your father." Maya thought about the black sedan, the feeling of being followed, the anonymous text message. It all suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. "What do we do?" Maya asked. "Right now, we get you to safety," Colonel Mitchell said. "I have a team position around the school, but We need to move quickly and carefully." As if to punctuate his words, Maya heard a distant sound that made her look up at the sky. It was faint at first, but growing louder, the unmistakable thump of helicopter rotors. Colonel Mitchell followed her gaze and nodded grimly. "All right." Maya stared at him in disbelief. A helicopter was coming to her high school, the same place where she had been mocked and bullied for wearing surplus gear, was about to become the landing zone for a military aircraft. "Colonel," Maya said, her voice stronger now as reality set in, "what exactly has my father gotten himself into?" Colonel Mitchell looked at her with something that might have been respect. "Your father, Sergeant Major Chun, is one of the most decorated special operations soldiers in the United States Army. And right now, he's the only thing standing between a terrorist cell and a major attack on American soil." The helicopter sound was getting much louder now, and Maya could see students starting to come out of the school building, pointing at the sky in confusion and excitement. In just a few minutes, everyone who had mocked her for her military connections was about to see exactly what those connections really meant. But more importantly, Maya was about to discover that her quiet, careful father was actually one of the most dangerous men in the world, and that she had inherited more of his skills than anyone realized. The Apache helicopter appeared over the tree line behind Lincoln High School, like something out of an action movie. Its rotors beat the air with thunderous authority, drowning out every other sound on campus. Students poured out of the building, teachers emerged from classrooms, and everyone stood transfixed as the military aircraft circled the school's football field. Maya watched in stunned silence as the reality of her situation hit her. This wasn't a drill or a mistake. Her father really was involved in something big enough to warrant military helicopters and armed escorts. The surplus gear she wore wasn't just hand-me-downs. It was practically a uniform. "Stay close to me," Colonel Mitchell instructed, speaking directly into Maya's ear so she could hear him over the rotor noise. "We're going to walk calmly toward the landing zone. No running, no panic. Can you do that?" Maya nodded, her military upbringing kicking in. She had been around helicopters and military operations her entire life, even if she had never been directly involved in one. The discipline her father had taught her was about to be put to the ultimate test. As they walked across the courtyard toward the field, Maya became aware of the absolute chaos erupting around them. Students were screaming, some with excitement, others with fear. Teachers were trying to maintain order while clearly having no idea what was happening. Cell phones were out everywhere, recording video after video of the unprecedented scene. And through it all, Maya caught glimpses of the same students who had tormented her all semester. Jessica Martinez stood frozen near the main entrance, her mouth hanging open in disbelief. Brad Thompson and his football teammates were pointing and shouting questions that no one could answer over the helicopter noise. "Is that really for the weird military girl?" Maya heard someone shout. "Oh my God, she's walking toward it," another voice called out. Principal Hartwell came running across the courtyard, red-faced and clearly panicked. He approached Colonel Mitchell, shouting to be heard over the helicopter. Sir, you can't land a military aircraft on school property without permission. This is highly irregular." Colonel Mitchell pulled out his credentials again, showing them to the principal. "This is a matter of national security, sir. I suggest you evacuate the immediate area and keep your students at a safe distance." Principal Hartwell stared at the ID, then at Maya, then back at the helicopter. His face went through several expressions as he processed what was happening. The quiet girl that students had been bullying was apparently connected to something far beyond his understanding. "Maya," he called out, "are you in some kind of trouble?" "No, sir," Maya replied, her voice steady despite everything. "I'm just going home." As they reached the edge of the football field, Maya could see the Apache more clearly. It was a massive, intimidating machine bristling with weapons and advanced technology. 2 crew members were visible in the cockpit, and she could see at least one other figure in the passenger compartment. The helicopter settled onto the field with precision, its landing skis touching down gently despite the aircraft's size and power. The moment it landed, the side door opened, and two soldiers in full combat gear jumped out, establishing a security perimeter around the aircraft. Maya recognized their equipment and bearing immediately. These weren't regular Army soldiers. They were special operations, probably Rangers or Delta Force. The same elite units her father had always spoken about with such respect. "Time to go," Colonel Mitchell said, placing a protective hand on Maya's shoulder and guiding her toward the helicopter. As they approached the aircraft, Maya heard her name being called from behind. She turned to see Emma Walsh pushing through the crowd of students, her face filled with concern and confusion. "Maya, what's happening? Are you okay?" Emma shouted over the helicopter noise. Maya paused, looking at the one person at Lincoln High who had shown her any kindness. She wanted to explain, to say goodbye properly, but Colonel Mitchell was already urging her forward. "I have to go," Maya called back to Emma. "Take care of yourself." Emma stood there watching as Maya climbed into the helicopter, her face a mixture of worry and amazement. Around her, hundreds of other students were recording everything, their phones capturing the moment that would become legendary at Lincoln High School. Inside the Apache, Maya found herself seated next to another soldier she didn't recognize. He handed her a headset so she could communicate over the engine noise. "You okay, kid?" the soldier asked through the headset. His voice was kind but professional. "I think so," Maya replied. "This is all pretty overwhelming." "I bet it is. My name's Sergeant First Class Rodriguez. I worked with your father in Afghanistan. He's a good man." Maya felt a surge of pride despite the circumstances. Even here, surrounded by elite soldiers, her father's reputation preceded him. As the helicopter lifted off, Maya looked down at the school through the window. The entire student body and faculty were gathered on the various fields and parking lots, watching the aircraft depart. She could see Principal Hartwell on his phone, probably trying to explain to the school district why a military helicopter had just landed during lunch period. But what struck Maya most was seeing Jessica, Brad, and all the other students who had made her life miserable standing there with expressions of pure shock and awe. The same girl they had mocked for wearing surplus gear was being evacuated by Special Operations Forces in an Apache helicopter. "Where are we going?" Maya asked through the headset. "Secure location first," Colonel Mitchell replied. "We need to debrief you and make sure you're safe while we coordinate with your mother." "Is my mom okay?" "She's fine. We have a team with her now, getting her to safety as well. You'll be reunited shortly." As the helicopter gained altitude, Maya could see the entire town of Millbrook Heights spread out below. The wealthy neighborhoods, the shopping centers, the perfect suburban landscape where she had never quite fit in. From up here, it all looked very small and far away. "Maya," Sergeant Rodriguez said, "your father wanted me to give you a message if we ever had to extract you." "What message?" "He said to tell you that real strength isn't about what other people think of you. It's about knowing who you are and what you stand for, even when everyone else doubts you." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from a mixture of pride and relief. For months, she had endured the mockery and isolation at Lincoln High, wondering if she really was as worthless as her classmates made her feel. Now she was discovering that she came from a family of genuine heroes, people who put their lives on the line for others without needing recognition or praise. "There's something else," Colonel Mitchell added. "The reason we had to move so quickly today is that intelligence intercepted communications indicating an imminent attempt to kidnap you from the school." Maya's blood went cold. "Kidnap me?" "The terrorist cell your father is working to stop has been planning to use you as leverage. They've had operatives watching the school for weeks, looking for the right opportunity." Maya thought about all the times she had felt like she was being watched, the black sedan, the anonymous text message. What she had attributed to normal high school cruelty had actually been something much more dangerous. "How did they find out about my father?" Maya asked. "Someone leaked information about his family," Colonel Mitchell said grimly. "We're still investigating how, but the important thing is that we discovered the plot in time." As they flew over the countryside, Maya processed everything she was learning. Her father wasn't just deployed, he was deep undercover in a critical mission. She wasn't just the daughter of a soldier. She was the child of someone important enough that enemies would try to use her against him. And the school where she had been treated like an outcast was now the site of a major security operation. What happens now? Maya asked. Now we keep you and your mother safe until your father completes his mission, Colonel Mitchell replied. It might take some time, but you'll be protected every step of the way. Maya looked out the window again, thinking about Emma and even about Jessica and Brad. By now, the story would be spreading beyond Lincoln High. Local news stations would probably pick it up. Social media would be buzzing with videos of the helicopter landing. Everyone who had dismissed her as weird or poor or unimportant would be trying to piece together what had just happened. Sergeant Rodriguez, Maya said, what's my father actually doing over there? What's so important that people would come after his family? Rodriguez exchanged a look with Colonel Mitchell before answering. Your father has infiltrated a major terrorist network that's been planning multiple attacks on American targets. He's the only asset we have inside their organization, and the intelligence he's providing is saving thousands of lives. Maya felt a surge of pride, so strong it nearly overwhelmed her. While she had been worried about fitting in at high school and dealing with bullies, her father had been risking everything to protect innocent people. The perspective was both humbling and empowering. The terrorists discovered that Sergeant Major Chun had a family, Colonel Mitchell continued. Their plan was to kidnap you, torture you on video, and use the footage to force your father to give them information about American military operations. Maya shuddered at the thought, but she also felt a strange sense of determination. She came from a family that didn't back down from threats, and she wouldn't be the weak link that compromised her father's mission. As the helicopter began to descend toward what looked like a military facility, Maya made a decision. She would endure whatever came next with the same quiet strength her father had always shown. She would prove that she was David Chin's daughter, not just in name, but in character. And somewhere thousands of miles away, her father was probably getting word that his family was safe. Maya hoped that news would give him the strength to finish whatever dangerous work he was doing and come home to them. The Apache touched down on a secure landing pad, and Maya prepared to step into a world she had never imagined, one where her father's courage and her family's sacrifice were about to be tested in ways she was only beginning to understand. The military facility where the helicopter landed was unlike anything Maya had ever seen, even growing up on various army bases. This place was clearly designed for high-level classified operations, with multiple layers of security, armed guards at every checkpoint, and buildings that seemed to blend into the surrounding landscape. As Maya stepped out of the Apache, she was immediately escorted to a black SUV by two soldiers in civilian clothes. The transition from high school student to protected asset had happened so quickly that part of her brain was still trying to catch up with reality. Maya. She turned to see her mother running toward her across the tarmac, flanked by her own security detail. Linda Chun looked exhausted and worried, but relief flooded her face when she saw her daughter safe. Maya ran to her mother, and they embraced tightly, both of them shaking with emotion. For a moment, all the military personnel and security protocols faded away, and it was just a mother and daughter reunited after a terrifying day. "Are you hurt? Did anyone touch you?" Linda asked, holding Maya at arm's length to examine her. "I am okay, Mom. What about you?" "They came to the diner during my shift," Linda explained. "Three men in suits who knew things about our family that they shouldn't have known. If Colonel Mitchell's team hadn't been watching." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Maya understood that they had both been in real danger, and the military's intervention had likely saved both their lives. Colonel Mitchell approached them respectfully. "Mrs. Chun, Maya, I know this has been overwhelming. We have a secure briefing room where we can explain everything and discuss what happens next." They were led into a building that looked ordinary from the outside, but was clearly a high-tech intelligence center on the inside. The briefing room was equipped with multiple screens, secure communication equipment, and maps covering several walls. Maya noticed that one of the maps showed the Middle East with various marked locations, probably indicating areas where her father might be operating. "Please sit down," Colonel Mitchell said, gesturing to chairs around a large conference table. "I know you have many questions, and we'll answer what we can." A new person entered the room, a woman in her 40s wearing civilian clothes, but carrying herself with unmistakable military bearing. She had short gray hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to assess everything quickly. "This is Major Sarah Kim from Army Intelligence," Colonel Mitchell said. "She's been coordinating the operation to protect your family." Major Kim sat down across from Maya, and her mother, her expression serious but kind. "Mrs. Chun, Maya, first let me apologize for the deception regarding Sergeant Major Chen's deployment. The operation he's involved in required complete security, even from family members." "What exactly is David doing?" Linda asked, her voice tight with worry. Major Kim activated one of the screens, which displayed a map of a region Maya didn't immediately recognize. "6 months ago, we received intelligence about a terrorist organization called the Black Crescent. They've been planning coordinated attacks on American civilian targets, shopping malls, schools, hospitals, places where maximum casualties would result." Maya felt sick thinking about the scope of what was being planned. The only way to stop them was to place someone inside their organization, Major Kim continued. "Your husband volunteered for the mission. He's been operating under deep cover, gathering intelligence about their plans, locations, and timing." "How deep undercover?" Linda asked. "He's assumed a completely different identity and has been living as a member of their organization for the past 8 months, Colonel Mitchell answered. "It's incredibly dangerous work, but the intelligence he's provided has already prevented 2 major attacks." Maya tried to process this information. While she had been struggling with high school bullies, her father had been risking his life infiltrating a terrorist organization. The contrast was both humbling and inspiring. "Why are we being targeted now?" Maya asked. "Someone leaked information about his real identity," Major Kim explained. "We're still investigating who and how, but the Black Crescent discovered that their new recruit was actually an American soldier with a family. So they decided to come after us," Linda said. "Their plan was sophisticated," Colonel Mitchell said. "They had operatives watching both of you for weeks, learning your routines, identifying vulnerabilities. Today was supposed to be the day they took Maya from school." Maya thought about Brad grabbing her arm in the courtyard, and how different that encounter might have gone if Colonel Mitchell hadn't intervened. She shuddered to think what would have happened if the terrorists had been successful. "The good news," Major Kim said, "is that by moving against you, they revealed their presence and confirmed that your husband's cover is still intact. He doesn't know they've discovered his identity, which gives us a significant advantage." "What happens to David now?" Linda asked. "He continues the mission," Colonel Mitchell said. "In fact, our extraction of you today will actually strengthen his cover story. He can claim that American forces discovered and took his family as retaliation for his work with the Black Crescent." Maya was beginning to understand the complexity of the operation. Her rescue wasn't just about keeping her safe. It was also a calculated move to help her father's mission succeed. "How long will this go on?" Maya asked. "The Black Crescent is planning their major attack in 3 weeks," Major Kim said. "Your father needs to stay in position until we have enough intelligence to stop them completely. That means you'll both need to remain in protective custody until then." "What about school?" Maya asked, then immediately felt foolish for worrying about something so trivial. But Major Kim smiled. "Actually, that's not a trivial concern. Maintaining some normalcy is important for both psychological and operational security reasons. We're arranging for you to attend a different school under a different identity." "You mean we're going into witness protection?" "Temporarily, yes. New names, new location, complete security coverage. Think of it as an extended vacation, except with armed guards." Over the next several hours, Maya and her mother were briefed on their new temporary identities, their new location, and the security protocols they would need to follow. Maya would be enrolled as Sarah Mitchell at a private school in Virginia, while her mother would be given work at a government facility under her new identity. Will we be able to communicate with David? Linda asked. Very limited contact, Major Kim said. For operational security, he can't know where you are or how to reach you. But we'll make sure he knows you're both safe. As evening approached, Maya found herself in a small but comfortable apartment on the military base. She and her mother had been given new clothes, new identification documents, and detailed background for their temporary personas. This is surreal, Linda said, sitting on the couch and staring at her new driver's license. Yesterday, I was Linda Chun, waitress and military wife. Today, I'm Elizabeth Mitchell, government contractor. Maya looked at her own new ID. Sarah Mitchell, 17 years old, from Richmond, Virginia. She had been given a complete background story to memorize, including details about her supposed previous schools and family history. Mom, Maya said, were you scared when they came to the diner? Linda was quiet for a moment before answering. Terrified, not just for myself, but thinking about you at school, not knowing if you were safe. When Colonel Mitchell's team told me they were extracting you, I kept picturing all the things that could go wrong. I was scared too, Maya admitted. But also, I don't know, proud, I guess. Finding out that Dad is doing something so important. He always was doing important things, Linda said softly. Every soldier serves an important purpose. But this... She gestured around at their situation, the high-tech facility, the level of security surrounding them. This is bigger than anything I imagined. Maya thought about Lincoln High School, probably still buzzing with excitement and confusion about the helicopter landing. She wondered what Jessica and Brad and all the other students were thinking now. The girl they had dismissed as poor and weird had been extracted by Special Operations Forces in front of the entire school. Do you think the other students will figure out what really happened? Maya asked. I doubt it, Linda replied. The military will probably release some cover story about a training exercise or family emergency. The truth is too sensitive to make public. Maya realized she was right. The dramatic rescue would become school legend, but the real reason, the fact that her father was a hero risking his life to save thousands of innocent people, would remain classified. I wish I could have seen Jessica's face when that Apache landed, Maya said, and immediately felt guilty for the satisfaction in her voice. Linda looked at her seriously. Maya, I want you to remember something. The way those kids treated you is wrong, but don't let this experience make you bitter. Your father didn't become a hero to prove anything to bullies. He did it because protecting others is the right thing to do. Maya nodded, understanding what her mother meant. The real lesson wasn't that she had been vindicated in front of her tormentors. It was that she came from a family that served others without needing recognition or reward. That night, as Maya lay in her new temporary bedroom, she thought about her father somewhere in the Middle East, probably in constant danger, gathering intelligence that would save lives. She thought about the Black Crescent terrorists planning to hurt innocent people and how one man's courage was standing in their way. She also thought about the new school she would be attending, where she would have to start over again with a different identity. This time, though, she wouldn't be the weird military kid trying to fit in. She would be Sarah Mitchell, ordinary student with an ordinary background. But Maya knew that no matter what name she used or what cover story she told, she would always be David Chen's daughter. She would carry his values and his strength with her, even if she couldn't talk about them openly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and a new life, but for the first time in months, Maya felt truly proud of who she was and where she came from. The girl who had been mocked for wearing surplus gear was about to discover just how strong and capable she really was. And 3 weeks from now, when her father completed his mission and came home, she would be ready to hear his stories and share some of her own. 3 weeks later, Maya, now Sarah Mitchell, sat in her new school's library, supposedly studying for a chemistry test, but actually watching the news on her phone. The headlines were dominated by a story that made her heart race with pride and relief. International Counterterrorism Operation Prevents Major Attack. The news report showed footage of coordinated raids in multiple countries, arrests of suspected terrorists, and officials praising the intelligence work that had made the operation possible. What the reporters didn't mention, and what only a handful of people in the world knew, was that the critical intelligence had come from one American soldier who had spent months living among the enemy. Her father was coming home. Major Kim had called that morning to give Maya and her mother the news. The Black Crescent Cell had been completely dismantled, their attack plans disrupted, and their leadership captured or killed. Sergeant Major David Chin's mission was complete, and he would be extracted within 48 hours. "Sarah," came a voice behind her. Maya quickly closed the news app and looked up to see her new friend Katie approaching. At Jefferson Academy, Maya had been given a fresh start as Sarah Mitchell, daughter of a government contractor, scholarship student with good grades, and a quiet personality. She had deliberately kept a low profile, making only a few casual friendships while waiting for her father's mission to end. "Hey, Katie," Maya said, closing her textbook. "Just taking a break from studying. Want to grab lunch together?" Katie asked. "I heard they actually have decent pizza today." Maya smiled and nodded. One of the unexpected benefits of her new identity was discovering what normal high school social life was like when you weren't constantly defending yourself against bullies. The students at Jefferson Academy came from diverse backgrounds, and while some were wealthy, there wasn't the same toxic culture of judgment that had made Lincoln High so miserable. As they walked to the cafeteria, Maya thought about how different her life had become. Sarah Mitchell was popular enough, smart enough, and normal enough to fit in anywhere. But Maya Chin had been forged by challenges that most of her classmates couldn't imagine. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" Katie said as they got their lunch. "Sure. When you first transferred here, you seemed really, I don't know, alert all the time. Like you were watching for danger. Are you okay?" Maya realized that her military upbringing and recent experiences had made her more cautious than most teenagers. She had been unconsciously scanning rooms for exits, noting who was around her, and maintaining the kind of situational awareness her father had taught her. "I'm fine," Maya said. "I'm just naturally cordial." "It's not a bad thing," Katie assured her. "You seem really mature compared to most people our age." That afternoon, Maya received a text from Colonel Mitchell. "Package being delivered tomorrow at 1,400 hours. Family reunion authorized." Maya's hands trembled slightly as she read the message. After months of not knowing if her father was alive or dead, of worrying about his dangerous mission, of living under a false identity, they were finally going to be reunited. She went to find her mother, who was working at her temporary job at the government facility. When Linda saw her daughter's expression, she knew immediately what the visit meant. "He's coming home?" Linda whispered. "Tomorrow afternoon," Maya confirmed. They held each other tightly, both of them crying with relief and joy. For so long, they had carried the weight of not knowing what was happening to David, of understanding that his mission was critical, but having no control over the outcome. The next day seemed to crawl by with agonizing slowness. Maya attended her morning classes as Sarah Mitchell, took a chemistry test, ate lunch with Katie, and tried to act like it was a normal day. But inside, she was counting down the minutes until she could see her father again. At 1:30, Maya arrived at the military facility with her mother. They were escorted to the same briefing room where they had first learned about David's mission, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. Major Kim was smiling, Colonel Mitchell looked relaxed, and there was a sense of celebration in the air. "He should be here any minute," Major Kim said. "I want you to know that your husband's work saved thousands of lives. The attacks the Black Crescent was planning would have been devastating." At exactly 2 p.m., the door opened and Sergeant Major David Chin walked in. Maya had prepared herself for this moment, but seeing her father after so many months still hit her like an emotional tsunami. He looked thinner than she remembered, older, with new lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and danger. But he was alive, he was safe, and he was home. "Maya, Linda." His voice was hoarse with emotion. All three of them came together in the middle of the room, holding each other as if they would never let go. David smelled like military soap and exhaustion, but to Maya, he smelled like safety and home and everything she had missed. "I'm so proud of both of you," David said, his voice muffled against Maya's hair. "I know how hard these past months have been." "We're proud of you too, Dad," Maya said. "We know what you did, what you risked for everyone." David pulled back to look at his daughter, studying her face carefully. "You look different, kiddo. Stronger." Maya thought about everything she had been through. The bullying at Lincoln High, the dramatic extraction, the weeks in protective custody, the challenge of living under a false identity. She realized her father was right. She was stronger. "I learned some things about myself," Maya said simply. Later, after the initial reunion and debriefing, the Chun family was told they would need to remain in protective custody for another few days while the military ensured that all Black Crescent operatives had been accounted for. But they could be together now, and that made all the difference. That evening, as they sat in their temporary quarters, David asked Maya about her experience at Lincoln High School. "I heard about the extraction," he said with a slight smile. "An Apache helicopter landing during lunch period? That must have caused quite a stir." Maya told him about the bullying, about being mocked for wearing military surplus gear, about feeling like she didn't belong. She also told him about the moment Colonel Mitchell appeared, about the helicopter extraction, and about imagining the expressions on her former classmates' faces. "You know," David said thoughtfully, "those kids who made fun of you probably don't understand what real strength looks like. They see designer clothes and expensive cars as symbols of success. But real strength is doing the right thing when nobody's watching, protecting others even when it costs you something, standing up for your values even when you're outnumbered. Like what you did with the Black Crescent," Maya said. "Like what you did every day at that school. You could have tried to fit in by changing who you were, by abandoning your values, or being ashamed of our family. Instead, you stayed true to yourself even when it was difficult." Maya felt a surge of pride, but also a new understanding. Her experience at Lincoln High had been preparation for bigger challenges. Learning to endure harassment and maintain her dignity had been training for the kind of inner strength that really mattered. "What happens now?" Linda asked. "Do we go back to our real lives?" Major Kim, who had joined them for dinner, answered. "You'll be relocated to a new permanent assignment. Sergeant Major Chin's cover identity is compromised, so returning to your previous life isn't safe. But we have several excellent options for you to choose from." Over the next hour, they discussed possibilities, different military bases, different cities, different opportunities for Maya to finish high school, and for Linda to build a new career. All of them were in safe locations where the Chun family could rebuild their lives without fear. "There's one more thing," Major Kim said. "Because of the extraordinary success of this operation, Sergeant Major Chun is being recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. It's one of the highest honors the Army can bestow." David looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I was just doing my job." "No," Major Kim said firmly. "You went far beyond duty. You spent months in mortal danger, gathering intelligence that prevented massive civilian casualties. Your sacrifice and courage exemplify the very best of military service." Maya looked at her father with new understanding. He really was a hero, not because of awards or recognition, but because he had chosen to risk everything to protect innocent people. The kids at Lincoln High who had mocked her military connections had no idea what they were actually mocking. That night, as Maya lay in bed listening to her parents talking quietly in the next room, she thought about her journey from the scared, isolated girl she had been at the beginning of the school year to who she was now. She had learned that real strength wasn't about fitting in or being popular. It was about knowing who you were and what you stood for, regardless of what others thought. She also realized that she wanted to follow in her father's footsteps, not necessarily in the military, but in serving something larger than herself. The experience of being protected while her father risked his life for others had shown her the importance of people who were willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. 2 days later, the Chin family was relocated to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where where David would take on a new assignment training special operations soldiers. Maya would finish her senior year at a high school near the base, this time as herself rather than under a cover identity. On their last day at the secure facility, Major Kim presented Maya with something unexpected, a collection of newspaper clippings and social media screenshots from Lincoln High School in the days following her extraction. "I thought you might like to see how your former classmates processed what happened," Major Kim said with a smile. Maya flipped through the collection with amazement. Students had posted videos of the helicopter landing, speculation about what had happened to her, and interviews with local news stations. Principal Hartwell had given a carefully worded statement about a family emergency requiring military assistance. But what struck Maya most were the comments from students who had witnessed the extraction. Many expressed regret about how they had treated her, admiration for whatever family connections had warranted military protection, and curiosity about who she really was. Jessica Martinez had posted, "I feel terrible about how we treated that girl. Obviously, there was way more to her story than we realized." Brad Thompson had written, "That was the most insane thing I've ever seen. Respect to military families." Even Emma Walsh had posted a long message about how Maya had always been kind and dignified despite being treated poorly, and how the dramatic rescue had made her realize that you never know what someone else might be dealing with. Maya closed the folder and smiled. She wasn't glad that her classmates felt bad, but she was satisfied that they had learned something about judging people based on appearances or circumstances. "Any regrets about leaving?" her mother asked. Maya thought about it seriously before answering. "No, I learned what I needed to learn there. Now I'm ready for whatever comes next." As their car pulled away from the facility and headed toward their new home at Fort Campbell, Maya looked out the window at the countryside passing by. She was no longer the girl who had been mocked for wearing surplus gear. She was David Chin's daughter, and she finally understood what that really meant. She was strong, she was proud, and she was ready to write the next chapter of her story.